Welcome to Going on the Market, an online workshop geared toward doctoral level applicants for faculty positions in higher education. Today we'll discuss how to prepare for your academic job search. Please note that different countries and cultures have different expectations of job candidates. The advice put forth here is specifically directed toward academic job searches in the United States. First, we'll discuss some overarching considerations that will go into your initial preparation for the academic job search, including the perspective of the search committee members and how you can best present yourself overall. Next, we'll discuss in some detail the different components of your application. These include written materials such as the CV, cover letter, letters of reference, and other supplementary materials. Finally, we'll wrap up with some strategies and approaches that will help you successfully land an academic job. You are very invested in this search, and you really want to land a great job. It's all about you, right? Nope, it's about them. Of course, they want to hire someone who is sincerely enthusiastic about working there, but they really need to find the right person who can contribute to the department with the right mix of teaching, research, and service. As you pull together your materials, you'll want to tailor your documents. Identify those postings that you're most interested in and tailor to each one of these positions. Then, as you apply more broadly, tailor to the type of institution. Ask yourself, how will you contribute to the department? How much should you emphasize your teaching versus your research? How well do your teaching and/or research match the job posting or complement the department? Write your materials with the big question in mind: why should they hire you? Of course, you're going to read the job posting carefully and specifically show that you have what they say they are looking for. But realize that the job posting is the product of many arguments and compromises between search committee members. Ask around of your advisors and colleagues to see if you can find out more about what's going on in the department and what they're really looking for. And even if your work is only tangential to what's specified in the posting, apply and make an argument why you would be a great fit. They may not realize they need you until you convince them. This makes addressing the "why should they hire you" question even more important. As you consider these important questions, don't lose sight of the people who will be reviewing your application. What do they really need? It's a given that they need time. They are trying to maintain their own teaching, research, advising, and committee work, all while squeezing in the review of hundreds of applications, along with search committee meetings. They need sleep, they need coffee, or they've had too much. Through all of this, they crave peace, to put to rest the arguments and compromises, to invite the right candidate to join the department, and to return to their own work. Through your initial application materials, your goal is to make a great impression and get invited for an interview. How? Make it easy on them. Your written materials should invite them, beckon to them. You will, of course, be writing in the appropriate scholarly tone of your field, but make your writing clear and straightforward. Avoid very long sentences and complex grammatical structures. Be sure your documents do not make them squint, sigh, or groan. On the screen are some attributes that apply not only to your written application, but also to email correspondence, telephone conversations, and in-person interviews. Strive to evoke these as you progress through each stage of the process. Of all of these, make every effort to express confidence and sincere enthusiasm. But most importantly, follow the conventions of your field. Gather advice from your faculty advisors and from those who have successfully landed positions in recent years. Ask to see copies of their packets. Learn all that you can about the places you're applying to. Listen to everyone's job search story and advice. Go to as many job talks as you can so you can see what works and what doesn't work in your field. Now let's move on to discussing your application materials. I will briefly discuss the CV and cover letter here, but please refer to the separate, more comprehensive online tutorials on these two important subjects. The CV is a comprehensive summary of your academic credentials and experience, and it is a critical marketing tool. It establishes your professional image and communicates your qualifications, experience, and accomplishments. You should tailor your CV at least to the type of the institution you're applying to and design it to highlight the most important information in an easily skimmable, aesthetically pleasing format. The cover letter is your opportunity to emphasize and elaborate on those select aspects of your experience that are most relevant to the position. The cover letter is not the place to simply restate the points of your CV in prose, but to highlight and emphasize the most important points from your CV. It serves as a writing sample, so strive for a clear and concise professional style, while letting your personal voice shine through. Here is the most appropriate place to make a tailored, specific presentation of your fit for the job. In most fields, these are the two most important pieces of your application, but you can't predict which of these will make the first impression. Different people prefer to look first at one or the other. While they complement each other, each should stand on its own. Be sure that both the CV and the cover letter make a strong argument for a great fit, each in its own way. In many fields, the cover letter is expected to be longer and more detailed. In other fields, it is short and to the point. Once again, find out what are the norms in your field for both the CV and cover letter, and follow those. Oftentimes, a search committee member will quickly scan the CV or cover letter, then immediately turn to the letters of reference. He or she wants to know who is writing in support of you and how strongly they recommend you. Most academic communities are quite small, so your recommender's reputation and style of recommendation often precedes them. You'll need at least 3 letters, perhaps 1 or 2 more if you feel they add substantively to the package. Plan to solicit letters that, together, will make a strong and comprehensive recommendation of all that you have to offer. In asking for recommendations, choose people who know you well and who can speak to different aspects of your work. In addition to your thesis advisor, you might approach a thesis committee member, a research collaborator, or a professor who supervised your teaching. Managing the timely delivery of your letters can be the most logistically challenging and politically frustrating part of the application process. The most important rule of thumb is to give your recommenders plenty of time, at least a month. Prepare them well, with postings of the jobs you're applying to and copies of your CV, along with any relevant papers or chapters that will help refresh their memories of your work and encourage them to write a strong letter. Be organized for them. If they are going to mail letters directly, provide them with stamped, addressed envelopes, or make use of an online dossier service, such as Interfolio. Be gracious, patient, and appreciative, and follow up to be sure they have sent the letters. In addition to the essential CV, cover letter, and letters of reference, you may also be asked to submit some supplementary materials. If the posting makes no specific requests, it's best to ensure that the CV and cover letter explicitly address all major aspects of your candidacy. If you choose to send in additional materials, they may or may not help. One or more search committee members may be compelled to explore further, or they may simply toss the materials they don't wish to read in order to most fairly compare all candidates. Some may be annoyed if you send in more than was requested. While you may or may not submit some of these materials initially, it's a good idea to prepare all of them. You may be asked, on very short notice, to send them in after the first round of cuts, and this will be excellent preparation for the all-important interviews. In many fields, especially the sciences, the research statement is truly the core of the application and reads more like a concise grant proposal than a dissertation abstract. Because the research statement is so specific to your own research direction and the format differs between fields, we won't spend much time here. One universal applies, however, and that is that the primary focus is on your future research plans. You will, of course, summarize your past research in the context of your field, but that will serve as the foundation and motivation for what you plan to do next. The search committee members want to know what you'll be doing in their department. Will your research be a creative and interesting complement to what's already happening in the department? If it is experimental, is it credible and fundable? What is the likely impact of your work on the field? Consider again who will be reading the research statement. Is this a large department at a research university with many specialists in a narrow field? Then, jargon and specific details are warranted. Is it a small department at a liberal arts college where each faculty member represents a rather broad discipline? In this case, you'll want to develop the context more and discuss potential research projects for undergraduates. The most important thing to do is to get feedback on your research statement from as many people in your field as possible. The statement of teaching philosophy can be daunting to write, perhaps because of the word philosophy. This essay isn't intended to be a diatribe on pedagogical theory. Its purpose is to give the search committee an idea of how you approach teaching, as well as how and what you might teach in their institution. In this concise essay, you'll lay out some of your motivations, methodologies, and/or experience teaching, perhaps illustrating with compelling examples. Also, be clear about what areas you are prepared to teach and briefly describe courses you might bring into the department. If at all possible, tailor this statement to the particular institution, or at least to the type of school. If you have taught populations other than Harvard undergraduates, emphasize this experience and describe the types of students or educational environment in which you've taught. This will help to dispel the common concern, how will this candidate be able to reach our students? Most importantly, demonstrate your commitment to teaching. Let your enthusiasm and dedication shine through. Finally, because this is such a personal essay and sincerity matters, it's a good idea to draft your own thoughts before referring to samples of other people's teaching statements. Unless the job posting specifically requests it, a teaching portfolio is often submitted later in the application process. If the posting vaguely asks for evidence of teaching excellence, you will need to decide which components of the portfolio to submit and when. Again, consider the mission of the institution, especially how much they value teaching, along with the strength of your teaching experience, to help you decide what to include in the initial application packet. Components of a teaching portfolio can include the teaching philosophy, as discussed previously, statistics based on student evaluations, excerpts from or complete compilations of student evaluations, and even letters of recommendation from students. You may also include sample syllabi for one or a few courses you've proposed, or brief descriptions of courses. While this may sound overwhelming if you haven't already taught these classes, it's well worth the time to develop some syllabi now, so you'll be able to discuss your course proposals in an interview. You will pour so much of yourself into your application materials. Once you send them off, you will enter that stressful time of waiting to hear back while preparing for interviews you hope you'll be invited to. Throughout this entire process, there are some key concepts to embrace, the things you'll really need. Vision. Cast aside the view of yourself as a graduate student and strive to portray your new sense of identity as an emerging professional, an independent scholar, and a potential colleague. Confidence. Your enthusiasm for your own work, as well as your interest in their work and in their institution, will go a long way toward projecting your sincere confidence in your ability to make a great contribution to the department. Patience. So much of this job search is an excruciating waiting game. For various reasons, many departments do not keep candidates up to date on their status. In many fields, wikis have emerged to help candidates keep track of the progress of a search. Once you've been invited for a campus visit, it's okay to contact the chair of the search committee, but before that, keep your inquiries brief and infrequent and direct them to the department administrator. Organization. It's not easy to keep track of the myriad details of your search. Create a master calendar and a spreadsheet or database to track each application. Regularly update your action steps and monitor deadlines. As you anticipate interviews, consider what you'll wear. You'll want to feel comfortable, confident, and professional. When in doubt, dress conservatively and wear something with a jacket. Look and ask around to learn how people in your field dress for interviews. You'll need stamina, not only during the grueling campus visits, but throughout the entire exhausting, time-consuming process. Prepare to devote yourself. Time management is key, as is taking care of yourself. A sense of humor. So much of this process is out of your control, so expect to endure uncertainty and angst. But you may be surprised by serendipity. Throughout, focus on doing the best job you can do, keep a positive attitude, and try not to be too hard on yourself. You've heard it before. Every doctoral candidate needs a plan B. Whether you are absolutely committed to pursuing an academic career or you are considering options beyond academe, be sure you have a place to land if that plum academic job doesn't come through for you on this round. Learn from your experiences and plan to bolster the strength of your candidacy for the next round. As you embark on this next exciting phase of your academic career, we wish you the best of luck.